to be our centralized database for authentication. Now I can have multiple, clients or machines, and I can create my passwords once on the NIS server, and all my NIS clients can log in with those accounts. So there's just a few steps we need to take to set up each client to use our NIS server. And let me go ahead and expand this a little bit. It's a little bit bigger there. 1. Verify basic connectivity to the network and NIS server. Check DNS, IP, and host settings. Make sure Network Manager is installed. One of the first things I want to do is check my IP settings, and if you're static, that's fine, but make sure it's compatible. Basic connectivity, of course, up to layer 3 of the OSIs is going to be a requirement to utilize higher level services and things. So in this case, I'm using DHCP. I just use DH client, and I'm 192.168.18, and my NIS server I know is 192.168.15. Okay, so I have that set up, and with that set up, we need to install a few things, just like we did with the server. 2. Install port map. Use sudo apt-get install port map. So on the client, again, I want to install port map. I'm going to do sudo apt-get install port map, and it'll just go download those packages. Three, update port map. Use sudo update-rc.d port map defaults 10. And now I just want to update let's see. Update the defaults there. Okay. 4. Install NIS. Use sudo apt-get install NIS. And the next part, again, this may fail the first time through. Let me go ahead and clear the screen here, and I'm gonna, because I haven't, it hasn't installed the configuration files yet. I'm gonna have to modify that data so I can find the NIS server. But I'm gonna go ahead and install the NIS service so I can get those configuration files in place. So sudo apt-get install and NIS. And lastly, what my domain is. And remember, we called it ultimate. Battlestars.com was our domain. And again, this may toil for some time. Okay, so now NIS is set up and installed. So I have the things in place for basic connectivity. Now we just need to modify the configuration file so that it can find and utilize our NIS server for centralized network authentication. 5. Edit the /etc/hosts file. Add the NIS server's host name and fully qualified domain name to the client's host file to harden it against DNS failure. Use sudo nano /etc/hosts. So the next thing I want to do is modify one of the basic configuration files on any system, be it server, or client. In this case, the host file. And if I'm using DNS, I wouldn't have to do this. But by doing this, I'll harden it against DNS failure. So that way if the DNS server goes down, it'll still be able to find the IP address of my NIS server. So to do that, I'm just going to add the IP to the host file. Oops, let me do sudo nano. Can't walk and chew gum at the same time. Can't talk and type at the same time. Let me do the IP of my NIS server, and I'll give it the host name, which is Pegasus. And I'll also do the FQDN, the fully qualified domain name. ultimatebattlestars.com. And I'm going to go ahead and save this. Okay, so That adds it to the host file, and if we want to test it, I get my echo replies. So I can resolve the name from my host file and legitimate. I got the extra R there. Okay, so I've tested it and verified I can resolve it. 6. Edit the etc.yp.conf file. Use sudo nano /etc/yp.conf. Now, the next file I want to edit, again, that's if I can manage to type and talk at the same time. The next file I want to edit is the yp.conf file. So, Milus Pray, why I laugh. The domain is ultimate. battlestars.com, and the server by hostname as defined on my host file and my DNS server is Pegasus, and the FQDN ultimate battlestars.com. Okay, and I just want to save this, and yes. Okay, so you can also do the IP address of the name server. There's examples in that file. But in this case, notice I just did the domain ultimatebattlestars.com, server Pegasus ultimatebattlestars.com. Okay. 7. Edit the etc nsswitch.conf file. Use sudo nano /etc/nsswitch.conf. Now the next file we need to modify or edit is going to be the nsswitch file. Okay, so I'm going to go like most files. These are in the etc folder. Yes, I know it's etc, but it's just the lazy way to say it is etc. It's kind of fun too. Less syllables. Alright, NIS, and I want to save it. So for password group and shadow, I want to specify, in this case, I'm going to be using NIS authentication, and yes, and save that. Okay. 8. Modify the permissions on the default home folder so Nautilus and X Windows can allow users to log in graphically to a GNOME desktop. Use sudo chmod 777/home. And at this point, we're almost ready to reboot, but if I'm just going to log in without X Windows, then I can just reboot and log in and start using my accounts. However, if I want to allow, my NIS clients, people from my NIS server, or accounts on my NIS server to log into my NIS clients and get a graphical desktop and use X Windows, there's one more additional step I should take, and that is, see how I have a home directory locally on this machine here, C Germany. But remember, we created the users, user 1 and user 2, on the NIS server. They don't have directories yet, so there wouldn't be permission. And if I were to log in graphically, I'd have problems. If I log in, at run level 3, not an issue because, or without trying to run X Windows, I don't have to worry about it. But if Nautilus tries to run and X Windows tries to run, and those user accounts don't have permission to create directories on the client, then I'm going to get errors and things. So to take care of that, let's just chmod the home directory and change the permissions on it. And the reason I'm saying that, if you look, let me go find home here and highlight it. And if you look, notice that root, he's the owner and he's also the group, and he has read, write, execute. But what about, in this case, well, that's the user account. The group account only has read and execute, so he's read only, and others read only. And I just want to chmod that. And you could tweak the permissions however you like, but for now I'm just going to take the easy, I'm not following the principle of least privilege, but I'm taking the easy way. Sudo chmod 777 home. You guys can go in and tweak it later and figure out what you want to do with groups and things. But if I do a long listing, what this will do is it'll give Nautilus permission to create directories and folders for people that want to log in graphically. Okay, see, so now they have read, write, and execute. And so that way they'll be able to create home folders and things on the NIS client workstation using accounts that exist in the password file on the NIS server. So it's a centralized database of authentication, sort of like Active Directory. And there's also LDAP, but that's for another time. LDAP server. 9. Reboot the NIS client. Use sudo reboot. Okay, so at this point I'm ready. I've done the things that I need to do, and really I just need to reboot. And so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And then, alright, so I've rebooted my NIS client. I'm going to log in as C Germany this time, which is the root account, and just test something. My old password on the NIS client was different from the one on the NIS server. But if everything works the way it should, I should now no longer be able to authenticate with that old password. So like if I type in, this was the original password right here, it should not authenticate. It says authentication failure. And the reason is now instead of using a local password file and authenticating on the local client, now it's using the NIS server. So what I have to do instead is I have to type in the the C Germany password from the NIS server to give me kind of root privileges and things. So and that password was just lowercase password. Alright, so I'm just going to type in lowercase password, and now I can log in, so I know that my NIS server is actually functioning properly here. 10. Test the NIS client's connection to the NIS server. Use ypcat password. And there's a tool that we can use real quick just to test some things. So I'm just going to do, let me see if I need to zoom in just a little bit here. I'm going to do ypcat password. And then I'll just load or read the password file off the server. And by the way, this can also be, be maybe one of the weaknesses of NIS. You want to protect who's allowed to use ypcat and load the password file, because otherwise they could be reading passwords and things from their servers. But there are ways of doing that and hiding that and obfuscating it and encrypting it. And there's lightweight directory access protocol. You can do LDAP servers, but that's for another day and another time. For now, we just want a simple way to use NIS to create centralized authentication on a Linux network, so we can have Ubuntu workstations, clients, and Ubuntu server, and this way we can create the user account only once on the server, and then we can log in on any of our workstations using that password and that ID. Alright, so that's everything's the way it looks like it's working the way it should there. I'm going to log out real quick. 11. Now take your spiffy new Linux client server architecture for a spin and kiss your old peer-to-peer blues goodbye. I'm going to test some of my other accounts, alright? And these are ones that don't have a desktop created, but these are accounts that they don't exist on the NIS client on the workstation, but they were created on the NIS server. So if everything's working properly, I should be able, even though I'm on a different computer, I should be able to log in using user accounts and passwords from my NIS server, and they should be able to create a desktop. And for these guys, I just used the password and pass. And there I am. So even though I'm not on my server, I'm on my NIS client or workstation. I have centralized authentication because all my user accounts that are on that one server, I can type them in on any workstation, any machine configured as a NIS client, and log in with that password and that user account ID. Let's try another one. We'll do user 2. Okay, and I can log in. So there you have it. There are other ways of implementing centralized authentication, like Active Directory does in a Windows Microsoft environment. But this is a very simple way. It's been around for quite some time, and it works with Ubuntu and Fedora and all of the the free flavors of Linux that are out there. So if you have a small peer-to-peer network, or even maybe a slightly larger network, this might be a good solution for you in terms of allowing you to have a server where you can manage user accounts and passwords all in one place, but then have all of your